Hello everybody, today we're going to be taking a look at this Lithonia lighting 70 watt metal halide wall pack fixture. Now this one is a little bit more of an interesting design than a standard wall pack you would see with a fancy refractor. Here we have mostly reflector action going on instead of the whole plastic outside being a refractor. So a little bit to something different. I also like the design here with the bulb coming right down from the top. I'm sure they did that to get a wider angle of lighting versus it coming in from the side like some other fixture styles do. So an interesting combination here. It's an overall unique fixture, and you'll see that here once we open it up. So on the bottom of the fixture here, you can see the bulb, of course, inside. It's a very well used Sylvania 70 watt metal halide with a Kaboom safe glass shield in there, so if it ever went poof, you're good. Now on the bottom here we have two drain holes. Notice one thing, there's no place to put a wire coming in. What was the design idea there? Like, there's not even ones on the other side. There's one on the top, and of course you can mount it on the wall to an electrical box, but there's no side or bottom entry of wire. You have to either do the top or the back, and I have a feeling, putting this together here today for all of you, we're probably going to put a hole down here to put the wire in because that's ridiculous. So we have the lens, or, well, it's just a clear lens really. There's no refraction going on here. It's just clear. You can see the bulb. But the whole housing here is plastic, just like some smaller wall pack fixtures are, so nothing too surprising. We have one screw here at the bottom. I already took it out just so it's a little easier to open it up for you here in a second, but it is plastic, a very thick, polycarbonate of some kind. It does have a little cracking going on here, and again, here's the other screw. Now, on the top of the fixture, you can see we do have an area to put a wire, a conduit in, and then right here, I do believe, would be where a photocell would go, if you so desire. But of course, there's no other areas, it's just the top. And you can't flip around the refractor, or the cover. It just won't work the other way based on how the ballast and everything is laid out inside. I was really hoping you could, but I think it was meant specifically to only have it come in the top, because you wouldn't have, drip holes here at the bottom if you're going to have that be the top. It wouldn't make sense. So, I don't know. Interesting design there. But there's the side of it. Kind of a drop lens type look to it. So if you take this cover off, I will use two hands for that. We will find the very nice and clean reflector assembly here, and something of interesting to note. There's a hinge. What kind of light needs a hinge on it? That's interesting. Take a look at the side. You can see the bulb just sticks right on through the reflector assembly here, which is screwed onto this metal plate. From the top, again, we could see the socket, and here's our sticker. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at that. So it's a multi-tap ballast, 70 watt, high power factor. I'm sure there's a date in that date code somewhere. Excuse me. Wall mount only. And replace removable parts after servicing, probably to get a much better sealed fixture when you're all done, but who does that? I'm not sure what these extra knockouts here are for. The only thing that comes to my mind is if you had a instant restrike halogen bulb or something, but you can't even get that down into here, so I'm not sure what those did. But let's take a look at this hinge action. Look at that. Now, this is supposed to be screwed down. There's a screw here, but the original person never had it screwed down, and the other one's missing on the other side, so we're going to have to find a screw for that. But for the moment, that's a pretty nice idea there. It just swings right out of the way, and there's everything inside. So, inside the fixture, if we move the camera to accommodate this a little bit better, we'll take a look around. Of course, we have our ballast, our igniter, and capacitor. So, looks like they originally had it wired up, I'm sure, for 120. And they had it mounted to the wall by the looks of the remnants of whatever here. They also had these knockouts knocked out. There's one at the bottom here too. So I'm sure it was secured to the wall with some bolts or something. But other than that, everything's in really good shape. Now, judging by this igniter right here, we have 11/8, so maybe 2008 is when it was made. You might get some more information here off of the ballast too in a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this bracket, and we'll take a look at the ballast information. So here's a nice close look at the ballast label here. Pacific Ballast, HID, of course the schematic, all the good information. Pacific Lighting and Electrical. Never really heard of their brand before. It also looks like, you know, it's made to accommodate some pretty big ballasts. They got stoppers here on either side. And of course this bracket, I'm sure they have different style brackets depending on what ballast they're going to put in the fixture. So we'll just put this back into place. Everything in here is in really good clean shape. So there's not really anything to clean up inside. But you know what? Let's wait a second on putting that back in, because if we're going to put a hole in the bottom of the fixture here to accommodate a wire coming in where there should have been one to begin with, we probably want to remove these items temporarily. And of course, it's also a Pacific Ballast igniter. Maybe that's a date. I'm not sure. It's kind of rubbed off, but I'm sure that's a date there. Never heard of that brand either. LLMKP. Okay. Let's see. We have our ground wire here. So we'll take that off. We have this wonderful zip tie that never got used, but is still there. And of course, we can take off this front here. And thankfully, all these screws are the same. Now, if you notice these, well, you can't see underneath there, they're white. Yeah, okay, wonderful. So now we should be able to just move all this to the side, which is good because now we have access to just the bottom plate here, and we can start thinking about how we want to modify it to have it accept a cord, since there's no real good way to do so. And there's all the internal components. Again, it's very clean, so wherever it was must not have attracted very many bugs or spiders or anything. I even took the zip tie out too, why not? We do have a little bit of debris in here, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that out. And then we can start thinking about where exactly we want to put this wire. Now, looking at it before, you know, everything sits right here at this level where it hinges. So we definitely need the wire to be, or the hole to be somewhere beneath that, which I guess would be somewhere beneath these drip holes. So we'll try to find a decent little spot for that. On the back of the fixture here is the price tag from the Restore. I definitely didn't pay $25 for it. So it must have been less than that, because every time I get something from this particular location, it's usually been sitting there a while and on sale of some type. So I cleaned out the inside, just brushed it out. And now, of course, we need to figure out where we want to put this cord. Now, I'm thinking somewhere over here, and we'll just make a hole and go from there. Now, if you ever want to cover it up, just put some tape or something over it and fill it with epoxy. That'll seal it up real nice. But I definitely want the cord to come out of the bottom, because if it is ever mounted anywhere, I just don't like the idea of having it on the top. It sounds ridiculous. So let's see here. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of eyeball it. So we have our two drip holes here, and we know it needs to be beneath that, but it doesn't need to be all the way to the edge here. So what if we try to put it between the curve here and this drip hole, and we need it to be big enough, like maybe 3/8 of an inch for the wire to get through. So I'm thinking about right there, and we'll use this pick to make a little indent that will help guide our first of many drill bits to make that hole for our cord. Yes, let me find some drill bits. We have enough of an indent there. We should be okay. So let's see what we can do. Definitely should have done that over something to collect all the dust. But you know what? That's why we have a vacuum plugged in and nearby for quick mess cleanup. Okay, definitely aluminum. That was super easy to drill through. So now we'll just continue working our way up in bit sizes until we get to the appropriate size. Now I suppose we have to think, well, what size do we want it to be? So I'm going to take a look at the different cords I have and see what diameter they are to find the right one. I'm going to choose this black cord here, and mostly because it's a not too big diameter, and I think it matches the color of the fixture quite well. I have gray ones, I have flat ones, I have a variety of different cords that I get off of appliances, but I think this will be the best match for this fixture. So of course, I'm going to clean up this cord and then find the appropriate drill bits. So after using our small drill bit, I have a variety of ones here to work our way up to the appropriate size for our cord. So we'll go ahead and start making this hole the appropriate size. Okay, it's not sharp at all. So now let's go ahead and try test fitting the cord in there. Oh, perfect fit. And a little bit of loose there, so it's not totally rubbing too much, but not bad at all. Now we just gotta clean up this mess. Well, I'm very happy with that addition. Now we have a very nice area for a cord to come in versus this ridiculous spot on the top. So now that we have that all done, we can go ahead and reassemble the ballast inside. But one thing I just noticed is that we do have a little bit of dirt here around the edges. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and give that all a wipe down, and we'll just give everything a quick little clean before we actually put it back together. Okay, I changed camera angles here just so it's a little easier to work on. So now, of course, we've got to bring all this stuff back over here and get it reassembled. So we have our ballast. It's got to sit back in our little ballast home here. And thankfully, all these screws are the same type, so it won't be too hard to figure out what ones go where. Now, putting the ballast back on, we don't want to tighten down the screws immediately. We just want to get them in, and then we can center the ballast here. At least I try to, so at least nobody's going to ever see it, to be honest. But you know what? At least I know it was right. And why can't I get it right? There we go. Okay, now we'll just tighten down each side a little bit, because this is acting as a clamp. I want even pressure on either side, so I think we've achieved that. Now we have to put our igniter and whatnot back in place, but I want to get this cover back on so I can see where the wires want to sit. And it's probably going to be a mistake because it's going to be in the way. But as long as I know where the wires want to sit, then I'll know where they used to be. Okay, we're going to turn that around, open it up, make sure you can still see what we're doing. Wonderful. And I think they're both sitting something like this. And we have our strip piece of metal here. I'm going to start with the one side. Again, I'm not going to tighten it all the way because it's probably, just enough that it holds it there, but not too much. So let's see here. We'll get this other screw down in there. Thank goodness for magnetic tipped bits. Okay. I think everything was to the one side like that. At least that's where it wants to sit. Nice. Now, this was folded down because, well, otherwise it touches the ballast, and that's not exactly the best thing. And we have just our mess of wires here with this blue zip tie. Now, I wish they would just have taken some time to trim it like that. It looks 1,000 times better than it was. We do have one screw left here, and that's for our ground. So we'll go ahead and put that in. There we go. Now everything else looks pretty good, to be honest. So we have our white wire here, which looks to be in pretty decent shape. And we have our black main 120 volt wire here. It looks like it's a little beaten up, so I'm just gonna clip that off and we'll make a nice new connection there. So let me get our wire strippers here and get that in there. There we go. Very nice. Okay, of course our ground, that one looks to be in pretty good shape as well. So we'll just twist it together there. Now again, I like it to be a certain length. I don't want them to be too long. So I'm going to trim them down to where I feel is appropriate. This is coming along very good. Now we need our power cord. And of course we need to get the wires out of it. So the best way to do that is we need to strip away the outside insulation here. Now, I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but I use a knife and cut along the edges and kind of peel it apart like a banana. But when you do that, you have to be very, very careful that you do not hurt yourself, because it's not the safest way to do this. But that's what I'm going to do, to strip away about maybe this much, and then we'll have our wires inside. So it doesn't look much different than before, but I scored the sides here, and if we just peel it apart, there we go, just like a banana. Now, one thing that to also note about doing that is you don't want to go too deep, because you do not want to scrape or puncture any of the wires inside. So that's why you just want to score it, I guess, more than cutting. You want to just kind of score a line so it knows where to follow what you're doing. And we'll just trim off all of this. We don't need any of it. So hey, what do you know? We got our wires. We got our wire all stripped and ready here. Now, we can fold down the top, turn it around, and we have our all new inlet here. So let's go ahead, put our wire through there. Doesn't that look clean? I like it. Okay, we're going to open it back up so we can see what we're doing. There's our wire on the inside. Now, you could just tie a knot in this wire to, create a cord restraint, but I don't necessarily like doing that because you lose a decent amount of wire in doing so, and you never know, you might need that couple of inches to get to the outlet wherever you're going to use the thing. So what I end up doing is using a zip tie. I take our zip tie and wrap it around here once like that, depending on the size of the inlet is what you'll need, but I wrap it around it like so, and then tighten it up on itself. Now we don't know exactly how long we want this to be yet, so I'm not going to tighten it all the way, because we should really wire it up so we know exactly how much we need before we end up regretting our decision. So let me get some wire nuts here. That thing used to be full. They all go to projects somehow. Okay, we know that the fixture is already wired for 120. This wire says 120 on it. 120 volt, and that comes from the 120 volt side of the ballast here. Now, if we had a igniter, or I'm sorry, not an igniter, a photocell to wire up, that would be part of our circuit here, but we don't have that, so we don't really have anything to worry about there. Let me get this wire back on out. So all we need to do is wire up our main wires. So we have our positive here. Let's twist those together. And we got our wire nut. Put that over the top. Twist it until we see it starting to twist here at the bottom. Give it a little tug. You don't want that coming out. Then we have our ground, which is incredibly long, and we'll just get it out of that zip tie because there's no reason to have it in there. It didn't make much sense why it was there. Now really we could just put the ground wire onto that screw, but this wire is here, so we're going to use it. It was provided for us. Not bad. And last but not least, we have the neutral. So again, we'll take the two wires and twist them together. Put our wire nut on. Again, just make sure the wires don't pull out. Once they start twisting together there, you know that you got it right. Very nice. Now, we know that we don't need this too incredibly long, so we can take our zip tie here and tighten it up. And we'll cut off the excess. And that'll be our cord restraint. Not bad at all. It's looking pretty good. So, one thing that I do notice, maybe you can notice it too, is that this looks slanted, like it's been bent or something. I think it's supposed to be more like this. But there's just so much play in it. Now, the other thing is, we have this screw here. And that screw is to hold on the reflector assembly. So, obviously, we don't have that anymore. There's only the one, and we're missing the other one. But you know what? I just had an idea. I was going to use a screw out of the bin here, but I wonder, this screw that was originally holding on the zip tie that we're not using looks to be a pretty good match. So we're going to go ahead and use that. Okay, let's fold the fixture back together here. And we have our screws on either side. Let's try our screw here that used to hold on the zip tie. Wouldn't you know it, it fits. Okay, and then we have our, what appears to be more of a galvanized one for the other side. Very nice. This is coming together very, very nicely. You can pull that down to, I'm sure the zip tie is right there. I'm liking that a lot. Okay, let's take a look at this bulb while we're at it. So it's a Sylvania, and it looks like it's definitely had some use. Look at that arc tube. I think it has a tumor. That's not exactly the safest thing to be using. Look at that. But you know what? For the sake of this video, we'll go ahead and power it on with that, at least for a short period of time, and see what we get. I'm definitely going to replace this, though. I don't feel too confident with that arc tube looking like that. That is no good. But if you look at where that is, relative to where the bulb is screwed in, so if we screw this back in, we will notice that that bulge is on the upper side of the bulb. So when it was mounted on the wall before, that's where all the heat was going. Okay, now we need to put the polycarbonate cover back on it. Let's take a look at that. So here's our cover. And it just needs a little bit of a wipe down, to be honest. We have a silicone ring on the inside, and it's pretty clean in here again. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a wipe down, and we will reinstall it on the fixture. We got the polycarbonate cover here all cleaned up. You got the sticker residue off of it. So let's go ahead and set it back on here. And we will screw these screws back in. I'm going to be as gentle as I can with them because they're already cracking. And we don't want it to crack all the way. So, well, I suppose even though I just put that on there, I think we need to find a place to mount it so we can get a good example of how well it lights things up. Okay, got it temporarily installed here. Nice look inside. Now we'll turn it on. Okay, let me turn the lights off. And we'll turn it on here. Hopefully this bulb works in 3, 2, 1. Well, it does appear it did something, and it's still glowing. So that's positive. Make sure, yeah, you can see they're pretty decent enough. Ooh, yeah, no good no more. Let's get a different bulb. Okay, we have a new ceramic metal halide bulb here. So we'll take out the old Sylvania and put in this GE here. There we go, and put the cover back on and we'll try it all over again. We'll turn off the lights again. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Much better result. Very cool. We'll let it warm up. Well, I want to say we're definitely at full brightness. I don't see much changing with its light or color or brightness anymore. Now, it definitely had a very nice greened out mercury vapor color when it was starting up. That was really cool. But now we've come to a very nice warm color temperature here. I'm not entirely sure what color temperature it would be, but it's a very nice neutral. It's not too much on the blue side or the warm side, maybe like 3000 or 3500 K in the color temperature here, but it's a very pleasing light. It is, yeah, I'm just surprised at how nice it looks. But I mean, that is ceramic metal halide, so I guess I shouldn't be too surprised there. But I don't see ceramic metal halide that much anymore. It's all LED naturally. Anyway, let's take a look at how well it's lighting everything up. I think it's doing a pretty good job. Of course, we have this pillar here in the middle, but as you can see, it has a decent enough cutoff over there. And a very nice even light distribution here directly below the fixture as well. We do have a little bit of light bleed, being a, polycarbonate type enclosure. It kind of leaks its way up here, but it's not too bad. The camera picks it up a little bit more than it actually looks like it is in person. And of course, that beautiful metal halide bulb inside. And boy, is this thing quiet. Let's watch it cool down. That's a very hot arc tube right there. I really do hope you enjoyed this video of this Lithonia lighting 70 watt metal halide wall pack. A pretty unique design. I actually quite like it, other than the weird placement of where the wires have to go to and come from. But other than that, I really do hope you enjoyed this video, and also please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.